Watkins. It is mixed with technology and daring.
Take the wheel of a high-powered machine. Press its performance past its design. Recognize, then almost ignore the dangers. Fight, win races, then championships. Then meet the best from all forms of the craft. Matched in equal cars in the four-part series that is the International Race of Champions. A pinnacle meeting of 12 of the best in racing. It's the Dodge International Race of Champions. Around is the only one to be run on a road circuit, and to send them on their way by telephone from his California home is injured IROC competitor Tommy Kendall.
Gentlemen, start your engine.
The historic Watkins Glen Racecourse in the Finger Lakes region of New York State, and the scene of the final round of the International Race of Champions. Today, we will determine the champion. Hello and welcome to Watkins Glen. I'm Paul Page, and let's take a look at the points as we come into this fight, and it's a whale of one. There are 4 men who could win here today. Now, Mark Martin has a mathematical chance, but still a chance. The real fight is between the first 3, Rusty Wallace, Bill Elliott, and Scott Pruitt. Now, Rusty Wallace has more riding than just the championship, and it's $175,000. He has the opportunity to become the first man in IROC history to win 3 in a row. Bill Elliott, well, by his standards, he's not been having a really great season, and so a win here could really bolster his efforts. And then there's Scott Pruitt, who represents the Indy cars, but most of his background is spent in cars very much like these IROC cars. Right now, Scott Pruitt, who could be the spoiler here, is with Gary Gerald.
Well, Paul, spoiler is a perfect term for the man who drives this lime green Dodge Daytona number 3. Scott Pruitt, tucked in here, has had great success on this circuit in the past. A 4th, a 3rd, the last time a 2nd. What's it going to take to get number 1 today with those 2 guys right in front of you?
Well, I figured if they just moved over, that would be just about right.
Are you going to have to help move them over?
Well, I wouldn't say that. I mean, these guys are tough racers, and they know what it takes. And, you know, what we've been seeing all season is some really good, close, tough racing. And you're going to see more of it today.
Well, we're ready for it, and it ought to be real interesting once they get that green flag going to turn number 1. Paul?
So keep an eye on IndyCar driver Scott Pruitt on the start. Now, Sam Posey, who's the favorite?
Oh, it's got to be Rusty Wallace. He's been the dominant force in Winston Cup racing for the last few years here at Watkins Glen. He has won the last 2 consecutive IROC races, and he is leading the IROC championship. But Bill Elliott, who starts alongside Rusty in the front row, knows all about that, knows how tough his opponent is, and he also knows that he must beat Rusty Wallace if he, Bill Elliott, is going to win the championship. I look for it all to boil over down there in turn 1 of the first lap.
Now, this is the only time in the 4-race series that they run on a road course. Bobby Unser, that means some changes to the cars.
It does, Paul. In order to balance the cars out from an oval to a road course, they've had to add weight to the right side of the car, bringing the weight up to 3,650 pounds. Now, that's heavy for stopping on road circuits, so brakes is going to be the answer. The guy that takes care of his brakes is going to be the guy that's going to be able to pass when an opportunity happens. Now, the Dodge Daytonas have good brakes, but remember the weight. They'll run them hard for about 5 laps, then they'll have to take care of them for a little while. And that's where the race is going to be a big change, or the difference in it.
So 11 Dodge Daytonas are set and ready to take the green flag, absent, of course, the injured Tommy Kendall. By the way, Dorsey Schrader had what they thought was an engine problem. They pulled the hood for a moment and finally got his car running right. Let's take a look at the field. The front row, Rusty Wallace, Bill Elliott. The entire field, of course, is done in order of the points they've earned. In the second row, it is Scott Pruitt in the lime car and Mark Martin in the red machine. The third row, Al Unser Jr. in that bright yellow car, and his father in the gold car. The fourth row is Jeff Bodine and Jeff Brabham. In the fifth row, Bob Woollick and Dale Earnhardt, and Dorsey Schrader starts alone in the last row. They now take a look at the final turn, and we're set and ready in the final round, the 4th race of the International Race of Champions. Onto the pit straight here at Watkins Glen. This first turn could be very decisive as the green comes out. The pink car, Wallace, takes a center line down to the first corner. Scott Pruitt closes up behind him. Elliott is pushed onto the curb on the outside. Al Unser Jr. is closing in behind Elliott.
A clean start. The odds against that were about 10 to 1.
The real surprise is the move by Pruitt, who has managed to get around Wallace, and Pruitt has the lead. We suggested that might happen, and there it is.
Yeah, Paul, you know, going into that first turn, too abreast and through the turn, too abreast without anybody spinning each other out was more than a miracle, I think.
Pruitt knew he had one shot to win this thing, and it probably was going to come in turn one. He took it, and now we can see whether he can hang on. Big pass there.
Al Unser Jr. takes it off the course, gets it airborne when he hits the barrier. He was on the outside of the corner as they entered it, and so Al Unser Jr. so very quickly is done.
He who has had most of his success in IROC right here at Watkins Glen, twice winning this race.
He knew that it was going to be hard to pass. The brakes wouldn't last very long, so he tried to pass on the outside. It happens to be one of the hardest places to pass here.
He had scrupulously warmed his tires up during the warm-up lap, but I guess he didn't get the grip he needed.
And there you see the yellow flag comes out. Now remember, in the International Race of Champions, yellow flag laps do not count. Al Unser Jr. has won 3 times here. 86, 88, 89 was second in 87. Let's take a look at this.
You can just see as he went into the turn, that's a turn at the end of the long back straightaway, Paul. He never really quite got down tight, and he got loose. His left rear just got loose and came around, spun, and of course you can see what a nice job that the retaining wall did, just bounced him right back.
Al Unser Jr. out of the car. The yellow flag is out. Little Al's day is done. Scott Pruitt has jumped from the second row up to take the lead of the international race. Well, the cars are all coming into the pits answering a red flag because of Al Unser Jr.'s accident. They'll be stopped here. And Al Unser Jr. is now with Gary Gerald.
Senior, can you tell us what happened?
Well, I just got in too deep in the back in the cold tires, and I got in the gray, lost the back end, and I went off.
You're obviously okay, and we understand you may get a chance to go into the backup car from the back of the pack.
Yeah, they mentioned something about that. I need to talk with Jay first.
All right, good luck.
Thanks.
Jay, of course, is Jay Signori, the president of the IROC. Let's look at the accident again. The yellow car is Al Unser Jr., but look at the light blue car. That's Jeff Bodine, who was trying the very same maneuver. The man most affected by this accident, though, is Scott Pruitt, and right now he's with Gary.
Well, Paul, here's Scott Pruitt, who sits at the head of this lineup for the moment, but Scott, they tell us it's a complete restart. So that beautiful attempt to get the lead looks like you're going to have to try and do it again. How tough will it be a second time?
Well, I hope it's not a complete restart. You know, that's one bad thing. I mean, it was a good start. It was clean. And I think they should let it go. Otherwise, I mean, I guess I'm the odd one out.
Well, from the indications we're getting, it sounds like that's the case. Richter telling us moments ago it'd be a complete restart since the first lap wasn't complete. So I guess you'll just have to show us how to do it a second time in turn number 1.
Well, you get lucky once. I'm not sure if you can get lucky twice.
We wish you well.
Scott Pruitt will need some luck. The lucky man is Al Unser Jr., who now climbs into Tommy Kendall's car. Let's get an explanation of all of this. Here's Gary Gerald.
Well, Paul, Jay Signori, of course, the president and the hard-working man who runs this IROC series, and a very tough and delicate decision has been made. Tell us about the move to get Unser back in the race.
Well, we want to make sure we have a good show here with all the drivers. Normally in an IROC situation, you need to complete a lap for the race to be official. Al caused a spin up in the corner, so we decided to restart the event, give him another car, and start him at the back of the field so he still has an opportunity to run in the race versus not allowing him to start at all.
How's Scott Pruitt and some of the others taking this now after he particularly loses the lead?
Well, it's one of those situations that you can't please everybody. We think this is fair as we can make it at this stage of the game. Scott retains his position where he started. I think he'll be in good shape when it's all over.
Thank you, Jay.
You're welcome.
Paul?
Well, I'm sure they're going to be talking about that decision for a long time to come. There is precedent set, though, from the green flag accident that occurred 2 years ago at Nazareth, Pennsylvania. There's the new starting lineup. So now the field rolls toward a green flag with everything save the position of Al Unser Jr. in the car he drives, just as it was at the start. And we will be starting the timers as well as the lap count on 0. So a most fascinating situation here, and the reason given in part for the placement of Al Unser Jr. in the back of the field is that he was the cause of the yellow flag. But now the advantage may in fact go to Rusty Wallace, who was able to anticipate, or will be able to anticipate, the move that Scott Pruitt made on the first start And if you take a look at the side of Rusty Wallace's car, you can see it was very close quarters there because there's a wheel mark from his car from that pass. So whatever advantage Pruitt may have had, they exist no longer.
Well, that's a rare advantage to get, too, Paul. We didn't know how that first start was going to come out. It was really close. And here they come down for the start.
And there's the green flag. So we're racing once again, and it's just as if we're starting all over. Rusty Wallace comes a little bit wider this time. Elliott behind him, and Mark Martin takes advantage of this one, and Martin comes past Elliott and picks up second place.
And Pruitt this time comes out of that first turn in third. Not first. Big shake-up.
Now, it just goes to show you the difference between those starts. The start here is just so awfully important, Paul.
Now Pruitt comes up to third place. Mark Martin in second. Elliott back to fourth. And Rusty Wallace, taking advantage of this restart, is able to stretch out just a bit. Now you're on board, Scott Pruitt.
Well, when Rusty came down for that start, he just was legging it coming off to turn 7, right down to the green flag. It was like no mercy this time.
He got such a good start, he was able to take the turn the way he would want to, ideally from the outside, and he is wide there, too.
Rusty Wallace runs a little bit off the track. No problem. He's going to use every inch of this course at Watkins Glen that he can. Now Mark Martin closes in.
Rusty Wallace likes to be known as a hard charger. He enjoys that reputation. If he slides off the track a little bit here and there, kicks up some dirt, he likes it.
Well, without doubt, Stan, he's one of the best road racers in NASCAR. It's not the very best. It's said by a lot that he is. He just absolutely really likes road course racing.
Everybody lined up as once again they head for the first turn, completion of lap number 1.
Now let's keep in mind they can't run these brakes as hard as they would like to for the entire race. So what you're going to see is the cars trying really hard to pass the other cars, but taking good enough care of their brakes so as to wait for the opportunity for a pass, or in other words, for somebody to make a mistake in front of them.
Yeah, exactly, and of course that's where Wallace is going to have to temper his aggressive tendencies. The last 2 races which he won in IROC were both oval races where he didn't have to worry about the brakes. Here he's going to have to.
But Sam, remember, he doesn't have any traffic. As long as he stays out in front, he can pick and choose when he brakes. So he'll take or have his brakes a lot cooler than the rest of the guys.
But he is being pressed very hard, and that's going to force him to use some brake.
The light blue car, of course, we just saw there was Al Jr. up from 11th to 8th on just the first lap. That's how fast he's coming in a car which he had not driven until this last lap.
One would normally consider it a disadvantage to have to jump to another car the way Al Unser Jr. has done. But remember, in the International Race of Champions, they don't even get an opportunity to practice in the car that they will race. The car is chosen by the luck of the draw.
No, but they do get fitted to them, though.
Yes, that's right. Well, they don't. They don't, Sam. In fact, he had to jump in Tommy Kendall's car and no choice. So however the seat is set, is the way he'll drive it. But he's young.
Here he comes. He's looking to pass.
Al Unser Jr. picks up another position as he gets past Dale Earnhardt.
He's 6th now, Paul. Oh, what a charge for Al Unser Jr., who, when he had his crash, made the point that he has been so successful in IROC racing at this track. 2 of his IROC championships came with victories here at Watkins Glen.
And once again, at least you think there's a mistake here. That car that says Kendall is in fact Al Unser Jr. He wrecked his own car on an aborted start here and is now trying to move up through this field. Leader of the race is still Rusty Wallace.
If you consider the championship situation, of course, Rusty Wallace must have a grin on his face because his closest pursuer, Bill Elliott, is back in 4th place.
So Wallace leads it. Mark Martin is in 2nd. Scott Pruitt 3rd. Bill Elliott sits in 4th place. Those are the 4 contenders for the IROC Championship. At Watkins Glen, New York, you ride with Rusty Wallace, who leads this race. He is the points leader, and of course, were the race to finish right now, he would be the IROC champion. But there's still plenty of distance to go. Rusty Wallace finished 8th here in 1989. As Wallace works his way around this track, one of the surprises seems to be that he is pulling a bit away and that Mark Martin runs in 2nd place. One would have presumed that Martin would not have gotten up into that position and joined this battle. Of course, this is a nice, desperate drive for Martin because he does have a mathematical chance. These are Scott Pruitt's feet as he motors around the track. And look at how he tests that brake pedal and pumps it up, gets it up to pressure. That's what you were talking about.
Well, the idea is these are 3,650-pound cars that you mentioned earlier, Paul. They need to know. They're driving these cars so deep, they need to know if they're going to have brakes when they get to the turn.
the throttle when he mashes it. He's going uphill through those turns there.
Well, you can watch as he comes through, watch his right foot. Now, sometimes when he goes through the turns, he feathers it a little bit. That means the rear end is a little bit loose on the car, and he comes up and down the throttle. Now he's on the back straightaway, and you just see it's a long, fast back straightaway, so he's wide open all the way down. Let's watch now. He's checking his brake, make sure he's got it. He's going into turn 5. And down shifts, makes his foot completely away from the clutch and brake. Watch him feather that right foot as he's going through. He's only working the first 2 barrels of the carburetor, not getting into the 4 barrels right away. And then when he comes off the turn, wide open, gets the 4 barrels in, he's gone. You can watch those pedals as Scott Pruitt up in the right-hand corner. It's just like a dancer going to a dance. Everything is precision, everything is premeditated. He knows exactly why he wants to be where he is with his foot.
The only substantive change in this run has been Al Unser Jr., who moved up from 11th place, worked his way up through the field, and now runs in 5th place. The 4 contenders for the championship, Wallace, Martin, Pruitt, and Bill Elliott, all ride together on the course. And Pruitt is now trying to work on Mark Martin. You got a good view of how Pruitt gets himself around this track. You're on board now with Dorsey Schrader, and that camera is located up on top of the car on the roof of his machine. Gives you a very unique view.
Gives you a real view, Paul, of what the racing looks like. That's almost, it's a driver's eye height. So you can see what he's really looking at. He can watch the guy ahead of him and kind of plan where he's going to go. Like, for example, Schrader right now, he's working the back straightaway, getting a good draft. And you can see as he runs up in the car ahead of him. There's the shutoff marker to the left. Down in turn 5, right here is where little Al lost it. Right out there into the field.
See the curves there? They can really unsettle the car here. You can't afford to run too tight in the inside of the curves because of those substantial curves.
Good opportunity to watch from the top of Dorsey's car. At the front of the field, status quo. Rusty Wallace still has the championship in hand, still being chased by Martin and Pruitt, with now 6 laps complete.
This turn, number 7, is probably the most important turn on the racetrack, Paul, because it leads down this pretty fast front straightaway into the number 1 turn right here. Now, you can get a jump on the guy there, and now braking going into the turn. This is one of the best places to pass.
Looking back from Rusty Wallace. Now onto the fastest section of the circuit, Watkins Glen. And joining Scott Pruitt now, riding in 3rd place. Let's just ride with Scott for a second. Up top, revs through there, heading down for station 5.
Little Al coming up. He may pick off Bill Elliott. Yes, going into turn 5. He outbrakes Bill Elliott just where he made his mistake at the first lap of this race. Little Al has been picking off drivers with regularity.
Well, Unser Jr. loves this racetrack at Watkins Glen and has a number of victories to his credit. Let's get an update on his situation from Gary.
Oh, one of the things they normally do after the draw is fit the driver to the car, get the pedals adjusted so the driver is his most comfortable in the cockpit. And that's doubly important here at the Glen because instead of the ovals where they've been turning left all through the first 3 races of the series, here it's left and right. Little Al didn't have that opportunity. He climbed into Kendall's car. Remember, Tommy Kendall, the tallest of the IROC drivers. Little Al may be having to reach a little bit to be effective with the pedals, but he didn't have the luxury of a custom fit. But he's making it pay off right now with a terrific drive here at the Glen.
So the eyes are on Al Unser Jr. as he moves into 4th place and now tries to catch Scott Pruitt, who protects his line just a bit as they come down off of the backside. At the front of the field, it is still Rusty Wallace, still running in championship form. Mark Martin chases him. And the fight is for 3rd place between Pruitt and Al Unser. At Watkins Glen, New York, Mark Martin is tenaciously holding on to the back end of Rusty Wallace. Martin is well aware that the only chance that he has at all is winning this race, while at the same time seeing some of the other contenders in the championship fight fall by the wayside. So he's doing everything that he can to get up to that front spot.
Now, Rusty right now is in a defensive position, Paul. He's not going up to his full speed. Now, I think what he's doing is taking care of his brakes, trying to ease up on him. He's letting Mark Martin get a little closer to him because he's got to have
brakes. Otherwise, if Martin has better ones, he's going to outbrake him.
Onto the pit straight. You can't say that Martin isn't trying. He's given it everything he can. Is this a move to the inside? Definitely is. Will he try him in the first corner? He just starts out there. Lets Wallace know that he's there.
That's what you call a fake pass. He's trying to get Rusty worried, trying to get Rusty to drive it into the corners deeper. Obviously a brake strategy.
The look from third place, Scott Pruitt's car, as he tries to force both Martin and Wallace into braking errors. Scott Pruitt, a most remarkable young man, but right now it's two remarkable young men. Scott Pruitt being chased by Al Unser Jr. Remember, Jr. is in the car labeled as Tommy Kendall, and now Jr. closes right up behind Pruitt. Jr. tries his move on the long backside. Can he get past? He's got position on him, takes the line away from Scott Pruitt. And Al Unser Jr. has third place. Pruitt back to fourth. Remember, little Al started in last place in the green flag.
Al Unser Jr. is showing a mastery of this course which he has shown before, but it is all the more extraordinary for his having had to start at the back in a car to which he was not fitted to the seat. It must be that he's fitting it all right, but he must also be driving, in a sense, over his head to accomplish what he's doing. Fabulous car.
Well, Sam, if you remember, every year we've ever watched Al Jr. here, he passes going into turn 5. He has a very, very good eyesight in order to be able to get into there exceptionally deep.
Good depth perception.
And that's where he just does most of his passing, and he always done that here at Watkins Glen.
Rusty Wallace possibly on his way to an unprecedented 3 straight IROC victories, and maybe even a championship.
Back at Watkins Glen, the International Race of Champions, the 4th and final race in the 4-race series for 1991, and Rusty Wallace is being challenged by both Mark Martin and Al Unser Jr. Now, all Al Unser Jr. can do is win this race. Rusty Wallace and Mark Martin are both very definitely in the championship fight, and the 3 of these cars running together have now separated somewhat from Scott Pruitt, who sits back in 4th position, now with 15 laps or half of the race complete.
Boy, you can watch. That's Rusty Wallace right there. Watch him when he went from 2nd to 3rd. Boy, he really drove the shift into that. Now, he really needs to stay in the lead because the guy that could beat him is right behind him for the point. And winning it, hey, that's where the big money is, Paul.
That's true, but if Mark Martin nearly beats Rusty Wallace and Wallace finishes 2nd, Rusty will still win the championship because he's led more than half the laps here in this race, which gives him the bonus points that he needs for that. So he's in a comfortable situation relative to Mark Martin as long as Martin doesn't put him off the road.
But look at this. Scott Pruitt, in that last lap while we were watching Rusty Wallace, has fallen back 2 positions, and there's no obvious indication as to why.
Well, it's probably going to be a brake problem, and you just lose your speed. Let's watch his speed and see what he does when he brakes. There's better in the throttle, coming out nice, wide open. Remember, when you see him pumping like that, he isn't really, see him pumping. Look how far the brakes are going down. They're clear to the floorboard. He doesn't have good brakes now, and that's going to be the problem with a lot of these guys that haven't taken care of their brakes really good.
You know, it was interesting that Dorsey Schrader anticipated that. One thing that cars and drivers can do is they can tell the crew how they want their driving position set. And Dorsey Schrader said, I want you to put the clutch or the throttle pedal, not the clutch, but the throttle pedal down because I want to anticipate the brakes being way down toward the end of the race, so I'll still be able to use them both.
That was smart thinking, and Dorsey Schrader right now is right behind Scott Pruitt. So the fruit of his good thinking may be about to come to bear on this situation.
Most drivers are very particular about little changes that they want in a car from circuit to circuit. But there are also changes made in these IROC cars as they move from a super speedway to a road racing course. Here's Gary Gerald.
Since this is the first road circuit for the IROC drivers after competing on the ovals at Daytona, Talladega, and Michigan, significant changes have been made in all of these IROC cars for their handling on the road course. You look down in the wheel wells in each corner and you can find a couple of the changes. These brakes get a tremendous workout at Watkins Glen, so special ducting, sending cool air into the brakes, has been added. The springs have all been changed, softening up the suspension setup, trying to make this car as easy to turn to the right as it has been to turn to the left on the ovals. Weight distribution, very important. 175 pounds of weight ballast, lead, has been installed in the frame rail on the right side of the car, used to offset the natural weight of the driver and some of the cooling equipment that's housed exclusively on the left side of the car. Back in here underneath the fuel cell, the fuel pickup point has been changed from the oval configuration to a road course. And another interesting little change can be found right down here on the side of the car. Side view mirrors, only rear view mirrors on the oval. But here, the driver has to know who's attacking from the inside or the outside, so he relies on these side view mirrors as well. The IROC mechanics have been busy. They have a checklist here of some 70 items, ensuring that these cars are as roadworthy now on the road circuit as they've been all year on the ovals.
And so while these Dodge Daytonas may look very much the same as they have earlier in the year, there are tremendous changes under that sleek skin. And then after the IROC crew is done, drivers add their own individual changes. You're taking a look now at the entire field coming through there. There's new road racers Jeff Brabham and Bob Wallach as they battle at the back of the field.
Two good road racers. In fact, you know, Paul, I really thought that Wallach, for example, would be a terror here today because this is his type of racing. He does heavy cars and he does road circuits, and he's quite good. He's a long-distance racer. Jeff Brabham, same type of cars. Lift cars, cars, both of them are champions.
In fact, every driver in the IROC field are champions. Rusty Wallace has led right from the green flag as we look through the entire field. Back at Watkins Glen, New York, a sudden display of blue vapor on the left side of Scott Pruitt's car. Looks like it might be a motor problem.
Well, it certainly could be, Paul. It could be two things. It could be one of them could be brakes, and the other one could be an engine. Just down the left front was going to be brakes. There'll be something wrong with it because it's not an engine. Scott has been without brakes. We know that. It's got to be his problem right now.
This is the first retirement since the restart. All 11 cars were in the race up until this point.
Let's keep another thing in mind. They only have 1 gallon of water to cool these brakes.
Well, it's very difficult to tell exactly what happened. Here it is again, Scott Pruitt suddenly with a big display of smoke at the back of the car. It looks like most of it was coming from the left front, though. Now, there it is once again. We can get a description of what happened. Here's Gary Gerald.
And obviously disappointed Scott Pruitt. Was it something to do with the wheel bearing or the brakes on that left front?
Front wheel bearing. Just froze up and was causing a lot of problems driving it, and it was tough. I sure would have rather have kept that first start, though.
Yeah, after the disappointment of having to start the second time, how did the second one unfold, and did you have any opportunity at all to get your nose in there for the lead?
No, not at all. Rusty was aware of what I was going to do and just did a little bit more evasive maneuvering, and I was stuck back there to end up third.
How tough on brakes has this course been up to this point for you?
Well, it's been pretty tough all weekend. I think that, you know, the wheel bearing was going away and was causing me some problems up in the front, and you know, I was trying to milk it along and make it the best I can. Then a bunch of smoke came out the back and parked it.
Well, better luck in the future, as they say. Thank you, Scott.
Thank you.
All right. Paul?
Official report on Scott Pruitt is a wheel bearing seal let go.
Rusty Wallace took a very cautious line to turn 5 just then. A little bit hard-pressed to explain that. It's the first time he has not let the car slide fully to the outside of the track.
And here comes Bodine, Jeff Brabham, and look at them as they work their way around this track. Little battle at the back of the field. The fight that matters still up at the front. Jeff Brabham working on Jeff Bodine.
Bodine has been slowly working his way backwards, which I've got to think. Now, Bodine is usually from this part of the country, incidentally, from New York. He's been slowly working his way backwards now. He's a good road racer. So I've got to assume he's having some brake problems also.
This is that fight once again. There's Big Al with Brabham. Boy, look at Bodine as he comes right in on top of Brabham. Bob Wallach sitting behind this. I don't think Wallach's accustomed to seeing that kind of close competition. He doesn't like cars clapping together.
Actually, Bodine is from Chemung, New York, which is less than a half-hour's drive from here. Jeff Brabham is from as far away around the world as you can possibly get. He's from Australia.
Back at the front of the field, Mark Martin is still trying to catch Rusty Wallace. And Al Unser Jr. is closing up at the back of Martin. Rusty Wallace flashes across the line now with just 2 laps to go. Only 2 laps separate Wallace from a championship. So if something is going to happen, Mark Martin is going to have to make it happen now. And And Martin is not at the moment directly within striking distance of this car, Rusty Wallace. There's the interval. It's close, but Martin is not necessarily in contact.
You know, Wallace has talked about how he likes to be known as an aggressive driver, but this race is really labeling him as a smart driver. He might have been able to pile up a bigger lead at 1 or 2 points during the race. Instead, he pulled it a little bit, kept his brakes underneath him, and now he has a little left when he needs it the most.
Sam, I got to fly the flag just a little bit for Mark Martin, too. Here's a guy that isn't known to be a super road racer, and just look at him. Not made a mistake all day, been completely aggressive, and look at him. He's working hard on Rusty now. Now, just after Rusty won't get him the championship, and he certainly, as a professional, he wouldn't want to knock Rusty out. But look how hard he's pushing.
In 1987, Jeff Bodine led all 30 laps here. Al Unser Jr. did the same thing 1 year later. In 1988, took the championship. Now Rusty Wallace looking at 3 in a row and looking at a white flag as he comes off the final corner with 1 lap to go. All of this race is now in the hands of Mark Martin. All Rusty Wallace has to do is keep it straight and safe for 1 lap, and Martin begins to close in.
Look how close he is. As Coker takes it up, Martin pushes as hard as he can. Both of them have pulled away from Little Al. Looking back there to your left, that's Little Al. That shows you in just 2 laps how far they've gone. They both saved the little race car.
Mark Martin is right there. Both driving as hard as they can on the last lap. Merely finishing in second is not good enough for Martin.
One big chance for Martin left now. Comes at the end of this straightaway. You see how close he is to Rusty Wallace. Rusty Wallace obviously driving with an eye in the rearview mirror. No shot there by Mark Martin. Now he has 1 more shot, maybe not as quite as good down at the end of this short straight. He's a little far back.
Rusty Wallace takes a nice clean line through both corners. Really doesn't find it necessary to protect his position at all. Mark Martin closes in, but can he get close enough? Rusty Wallace now working into the final corners. Al Unser Jr. has been separated from this fight. Mark Martin as they come heading for the final corners here at Watkins Glen, New York. And Rusty Wallace is taking a look at a championship. Well, Martin did everything he could up, over, and around the curve. Rusty Wallace is there, though, and Rusty Wallace takes the checker and the championship. Rusty Wallace has won the International Race of Champions.
I think Mark Martin is going to be known as the new road racing Charger. He did a super masterful job.
The checkered flag flies on the 1991 IROC season as the rest of the field strings under. The most interesting race that I'm sure the decisions made here right at the start are going to be talked about for some time. Rusty Wallace has picked up the championship, and with it over $175,000. Rusty, if you can hear us, congratulations.
I tell you, this really was a pleasant surprise. I really appreciate it. It was a good run. Mark Martin really ran strong all throughout the day. It was my biggest competition, it looked like. My throttle was long the last 20 laps. I kept having to drive it, get my foot under the gas, and to slow it down. I had a real sticky throttle, but was able to overcome it.
With a little bit of luck and a great deal of racing skill, Rusty Wallace has persevered to win 3 straight in the IROC and take the championship.